Hey everybody, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and we're working on page 8. And if you're building in sequence, you've already built this page once. It was page 1. So we're going to start with the two main elements, which are the upper and lower flap. The upper flap is 6.5 by 8. You're going to score a 1/2 inch on the 6.5 inch side, and it's going to get installed on the top of page 8. Okay, I'm just going to dry fit this real quick. Looks good. There's nothing on the back, so I can really apply it to either edge. So I'm just going to do it on the one that's closest to me, and then I'll turn it around when I install the lower pocket. Okay. Now the next one is our lower flap, which is 5.5 by 8. And score a 1/2 inch on that 5.5 inch side. Okay, so those are our two main flaps. On the bottom flap, we're going to install a pocket. This pocket has 3 scored edges. It is 9 by 3.5, so it's 9 inches across. It's 3 inches deep. You're going to score a 1/2 inch off the height and a 1/2 inch off either edge. So basically you're going to score 3 1/2 inch miter your corners, and that's going to become your pocket. And it's going to get installed on the lower flap. Okay, there we go. There's our pocket. Now on the top flap, we're going to install a left and right flap. So you need 2 of these. They're 4.5 by 6. You're going to score a 1/2 inch on the 4.5 inch side. One's going to go left, one's going to go right. Okay, I'm going to dry fit this one. I'm just looking to see if there's no overlap between the 2 flaps, and if it's a little too tight, I might straighten it out a little. There's a tiny bit of overlap, so I'm just going to shave a little bit off, like a 32nd of an inch. Okay. I want them to meet but not overlap, and that looks good. Okay. Okay. Then the last feature is we're going to put these diagonal pockets, goes this way, on top. So we've already done this on page 1. So these are, and you need 2 of these. These are 4.5 inches by 3.5. So they're 3.5 inches tall, 4.5 inches wide, and you're going to score a 1/2 inch on the 4.5 inch side and a 1/2 inch on the 3.5 inch side. And that is going to be the base. And then we're going to cut off this top part of the triangle. So we're going to go from this corner to this corner. And then when they're both laid down, it's creating a V. Okay. So again, 3.5 by 4.5, you're going to score a 1/2 inch on the 4.5 inch side and a 1/2 inch on the 3.5 inch side. And then you're going to cut a diagonal across this open edge away from this corner. Now I'm laying this in my trimmer and cutting it, and what I've discovered is it's much easier to run it through the trimmer before you put your tape on. Once you put your tape on, it's really hard to hold it still and get a good diagonal cut. The other thing you can do is use your straight edge, which I would use, but I don't have my box cutter in here. Now this one's got tape, so it's going to be a little harder to hold. So just consider that when you're getting ready to trim out your pocket. Okay. All right, so this one's already got tape, so let's go ahead and get the right-hand side in. And this is a fun page. There's a lot going on here. So this page is actually going to wind up taking quite a bit of paper to decorate. So I'll try to compensate somewhere else in the book by doing a simple page to help compensate for that. Pockets don't really require any more paper than a single page does. It's just tiered. But when you start adding flaps, you're adding multiples onto the page. So from a paper planning perspective, sometimes you have to have some complicated pages and then some simple pages. Otherwise, you're going to run out of paper. And people ask me often about paper planning, and it is without a doubt the most difficult part of album building. Okay, now I'm looking at this, and this is actually because I trimmed this one side down. This one's a little bit longer than it needs to be, so I'm actually going to retrim it. I don't want the tip of this pocket interfering with this flap, so I am going to shave just a fraction off. I'm going to mark it with my pencil. I didn't think about doing that. I didn't think about it after I shaved a little off, so I'll fix that real quick. Okay, that should do it. And what I did is I just put this right on the cut edge and then just moved this slightly into the path of the blade and just shaved off a little bit. And this is going to work out perfect. Okay, that's it. We'll get some tape on this one and be ready to go. As I mentioned previously, if you lay down, I like to call this the leading edge because whatever you're putting in the pocket is going to follow this lead. If you tuck that in first, as you put something into the pocket, it'll help it avoid getting caught up on the bottom flange. Not always, but it goes a long way toward guiding that insert over the edge of the bottom flange. So just think about that as you're, I need to cut this at an angle, installing any flat pockets. Kind of a trick for pockets. The other thing that a lot of people do is, and I don't, but a lot of people do it, is they'll glue the bottom flange. And then you have less chance of anything getting hung up in the tape. Okay, I'm going to cut off that extra piece of tape. And we're ready for an install. So before I take the backing off, I'm going to do the same thing and see if it's going to interfere, and it looks like it's just right. So this one was slightly off, and that's only because I had trimmed. That didn't trim very cleanly. I might come back with something to soften that edge. It looks like I've got kind of a rough edge there. But I had trimmed this slightly, so I needed to trim the pocket accordingly. This one was full size, and so the pocket fits full size. You can see it's time to clean my mat. It's looking pretty gunked up. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is trim off something that's going to go in these two pockets. So we do 6 or 7. Let's do 7. And these are just rough cuts, just to remind me I need to plan for paper. So I probably do something other than 4. I might want it a little bit taller here, but this is 4 by 7. This is 4 by 7 for the pocket. Is that right? Actually, this one's 4.5 by 7. And this one's 4 by 7. So it's just an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that I started with. And I like to tuck them in here just so I don't forget I have to plan paper for that. Okay, so that is, that's it for page 8. Okay, next time we get together, actually it's not the end of 8. Next time we sit down, we will be decorating this. Be back soon. Hey everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and we're on page 8. And I forgot when we were building this initially to add the magnets that are going to hold this top flap down. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to put a little marker here at the bottom so we know where our flap falls. And we're going to place a magnet here and then add it to the other side. And then we're going to decorate. And I think you guys are going to like this page. I really like the way it turned out, and I like the way page 1 turned out. Okay, there we go. So we've got our magnets in. So now we're ready to start decorating. Where am I going to start? I think we'll start on this pocket real quick. So kind of like page 1, I found a border trim that had some beautiful words on it. So when we close this flap, we're going to still see it, which I like the way that turned out. This is from the 12 by 12 collection pack. And it's the reverse side of the fairy page. Okay, that is in. And then this is what I've chose to go here. It's going to slide into the pocket ever so slightly. And you know what? I'm going to get a contrast sheet so you guys can see. There we go. The edge of the paper. And so can I. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So it's really just a question of, do I want this trim up or down? And I think I need to look at it with this sheet in first. So this is from the 8x8 collection pack. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in, and then I'll make my decision about that pattern after this is installed. Okay, there we go. Now that this is in, we can make a decision. Do we want this or this? And I definitely like this better. Yeah. Okay. So now I want to focus on the top panel. So I'm sorry, 12 by 12, 12 by 12, and this is 8 by 8. Now this is from the 8 by 8 collection pack, and I've trimmed it down to fit this panel, which is 7 by 5.5. And that panel size was determined by the size of this layout so that the gatefold will stay closed. It doesn't have to be the size exactly, as long as it spans the 2 pockets. Whatever you put in there will work. Will hold it closed. Whoa! Almost lost it there. Okay, now again, this is going to be the insert that holds everything in place. Set that aside. These are the 2 pieces I've trimmed out for the diagonal pockets, and this is from the 8 by 8 collection. And in video 1, I talked about how I came up with this, and I'll talk about it right now as I'm putting these down. But basically, you want to take a piece of paper that is the width of the page, 8, and then trim it down a little bit to 7 7/8. And then it needs to be as high as the diagonal pocket, which is 3 inches. So if you have a panel that's 7 7/8 inch wide and 3 inches tall, then you can slip it into the pocket, draw your diagonal lines, and then trim out your paper accordingly. Now, once you do that, you'll find that these diagonals will fit over the pocket exactly, meaning you won't have a frame, a matte frame around it, so you'll still need to shave a little bit off the side and bottom, not across the diagonal, the side and the bottom. It's easier to get a straight line if you trim off the side and the bottom. And then you wind up with this nice matted frame around your diagonal pockets. Okay, so in addition, you need to do the same thing for the top. So you're going to get a 7 7/8 by 6 inch panel. You're going to put it in the pocket, and you're going to draw your diagonal lines, and then about an inch lower than the line you draw, you want to cut a triangle out. And that just makes it easier to slip into the pocket as you're placing the designer paper in, so that you're not trying to get a point all the way down to the corner. It's not necessary, but I find it to be so much easier doing that. So now we have a choice to make. We can have this image up, and again, this is what's going to go in the pocket. So let's see what it looks like. So this is option A, and then option B is just a simple background framing out the insert. And I like both, but I think I want to do the reindeer. I think I'm going to put the reindeer up front, like so. Now this is from the 12 by 12 collection. No, it's not. This is from the 8 by 8 collection pack. Okay. So I've trimmed out my diagonal, and now I'm looking for just that nice border here so that it's even. And I think I need to take a sliver off. Now, if you're going to trim, don't trim from the center, trim from the edge. Otherwise, you're going to just make a gap in your image. Okay, let's ink that. I think that's all I need, but we'll lay it in and check it one more time. Be careful with your ink because white is not very forgiving. Yeah, there we go. So I'm happy with that. So let's go ahead and lay that one in. Looks good. Okay, now we'll do this side. We're going to test it and then trim it if we need to. And this one actually looks like it's trimmed just right. And it's inked, so all we need is some glue. Beautiful. And then she's going to go in here, and this is going to make a lovely photo mat on the reverse side. Look at that. So pretty. Okay, so now basically the A sides are all intact. So we're going to finish up on the interior, and then I'm going to take a break, and then we'll come back and do the inside of the gatefold. But right now we're going to go ahead and get the other large pieces laid in. As I've mentioned over and over again, I like to lay things down as soon as possible so I don't accidentally cut through them and try to repurpose them for something else. Okay, I think I've got this planned for here, and then this and this. Okay, this is from the 8x8 collection pack, and this image is from the 12x12. There we go. Okay, let's start by laying down this piece right here. Okay, and then this piece I'm pretty sure I'm going to need to trim to fit. Yeah, which is pretty typical when I'm color blocking. I don't like to, I like to wait until at least one of the two pieces is glued down before I finalize my cuts, because it's really hard to hold things in place and then try to measure. So it's best to get one glued down and then take that final measurement. See how we did. I can take out a little bit more. Okay. Okay, so that's going to fold up like so, and then we'll at some point want to put an insert in here. I don't know what I'm going to use yet. And then the last piece is the large upper flap, and it looks ready to go. And then when we come back, we'll cover the, and of course this is 12 by 12, and I can tell by the size of my image here. When we come back, we'll work on the interior of the gatefold top flap. And I'll also stop and get some glue because I think I need that. And again, if you haven't already got your art glitter glue supplies for the winter, you need to think about that because it's going to be soon. The weather will change and we won't be able to ship the product. And I believe at this moment we have all sizes in stock. Okay, there we go. Let's go through it real quick. Okay, so here's our insert. She is from the 8x8 collection. These two are from the 8x8 collection. This image is from the 8x8 collection. We've yet to design and cover the inside. And then all this is from the 12 by 12. These 3 panels, 12 by 12. And honestly, I laid it down. I don't know. I think this is from the 8x8 collection. It just looks like it, but I'm not positive. But there's not much difference between the two. Pretty sure it's 8x8. There's cut aparts on the flip side, so you may want to decide which one you want to use depending on which cut aparts you're trying to preserve. Because I don't think it'll change the look of the book at all if you use 12 by 12 or 8x8 there. That is pretty much the end of page 8. Well, not really. When I come back, we'll do the gatefold. Spit it out. Thanks everybody for tuning in. This is Daphne from Scrap and Create, and this is Winter Tales. Hey everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and we are going to finish up page 8. So I went away and I had to trim out some papers for the gatefold section of page 8. And this is what I've selected. This is from the 8x8 collection pack, and these are from the 12 by 12 collection pack. And you could use them interchangeably, but I just like the pattern. So the smaller scale pattern would look lovely here too. I'm just out of it because I've used it elsewhere. So I'm doing a quick dry fit. This looks perfect. I've already pre-inked the edges. Okay, now I'm dry fit this side. It looked a little tight to me, so I'm going to test it. I think it's a little too close to the hinge, so I'm going to take a sliver off. That should do it. Again, both the left and right flap for this feature are from the 12 by 12 collection pack. And then the centerpiece is from the 8 by 8 collection pack. Okay, and here's our centerpiece. This is another option, but I'm going to feature this on another page, so I think I'm going to go with the flip side, which I think makes it easier to put a photo on as well. Okay, looks good. And this is, I'm not sure, but I think it's from the 8 by 8 collection pack. Pretty sure it's 8 by 8. Okay, let's do a quick walkthrough of page 8 now that it's complete. So this is a 7 by 5.5 inch panel that's used to hold the two flaps closed. 7 by 5.5. And then we've got our gatefold, what we just completed. And then this is a flap held in place by a magnet, which opens up. We've got a pocket right here that we'll find something to put in a little bit later, once I know what paper's left over. And then we've got a lower flap. So that is the entire center spread. Okay, that's it for page 8. I want to remind you to subscribe so that you'll be notified when we have new content. This is Daphne from Scrap and Create, and you've been enjoying our tutorial with Stamperia's Winter Tales. I'll be back soon.